But without any further ado, let's go into the welcoming part, um, and we'll just head on to the next slide. Together with me in this welcoming part, I have a colleague from Los Angeles, Miss Sari Toikander. Would you care to say hello to everyone?
Hi everybody. So my name is Sari Toikander and I'm working as a counselor for science and higher education at the Consulate General of Finland in Los Angeles. And I will talk shortly after Harri. Nice to see so many people in this webinar.
Thank you very much, Sari. I will also remind everyone that this particular webinar is recorded and we will make the recording available afterwards. We also hope that you are able to take 1 minute of your time to maybe answer a small poll or survey regarding how did you find this webinar. Right, so we don't assume that you might know a lot about Finland, so excuse me for going into the very basics. Going into where Finland is, we're in the northern part of Europe, and hugged between other Scandinavian countries or Nordic countries. Right now, we're in October. We're fall. The fall term is upon us, and we can see the 4 very distinct seasons that we get to enjoy in Finland. But ever since 1995, Finland has been a part of the European Union, and you can see that on a European scale, I believe Finland is a rather big country in terms of size. In terms of population, we are rather small, only 5.5 million people. And well, understanding that depending on where you come from, whether maybe you look at things from a Brazilian perspective, then obviously we are small in terms of size and terms of population. If you come from the United States, the same thing applies. But at least in the European sense, we like to think that we are big in size, small in population. About Finland, we are a leader in education. We also like to think that we're a green and an innovative country. Technology powerhouse maybe goes a long way. We are rather engineer driven or technically driven, and there's mobile technology and apps are pretty much everyday life of every Finn, the same way as technology is utilized in various everyday functions. Also, Finland is known for being safe and a well-functioning society. So we most often you might have these kind of tests that people are leaving their wallets around the city, and how many of those wallets are then discovered, and the comparison rates are actually quite astonishing when comparing to other countries. And as said, European Union country as of 1995. So in the year 2025, we will be having the 30th anniversary of EU membership. I guess maybe if you've heard of news about Finland, you might have discovered that Finland is the happiest country in the world for the 7th time running. Adventurous, safe Nordic country with top of the list higher education system. We embrace education for better life and brighter future for everyone. And we hope that one day you get to maybe see that for yourself. We certainly have some examples to deliver to you later today. Other thing, we are a nature-loving country. Already mentioned that we are a big country in terms of size, but small country in terms of population. So that leads to an equation where we have plenty of ample room, plenty of nature to explore. And we have a highly functional society, flexible studying options that make it possible for you to adjust your work-life balance. Why not also study life balance? And you get to explore unique nature in this land of 118,000 lakes, 40 nature parks, and even this time of the year, you'll be able to see the Northern Lights. The 4 seasons was also already mentioned. About study options, whether you have already fixed yourself an idea of like what do you want to study, it doesn't really matter at this point. Maybe I just want to congratulate you if you already have an idea, but it doesn't. It also it's completely fine if you don't. English taught degree programs are being offered in Finland. Actually close to being 600 different programs that are only English taught, meaning that we have numerous others, but we're now only talking about the ones that we deliver in English on bachelor's and master level. Further information on that would be delivered in studyinfo.fi. Just briefly, you should know that there's two kinds of higher education institutions in Finland, and if the right hand side would be that the name of the right hand side column. Those universities will be called universities of applied sciences. They are more praxis based. They may have less theory. Usually, the students they graduate with their bachelor's degrees and then they move on to working life. But you could also make a master degree, complete a master degree in a university of applied sciences. Maybe the closest equivalent for that would be perhaps colleges and such as the ones that you would have, for instance, in the United States. Then you would have the traditional academic universities with a 3-year bachelor and 2-year master. Rather seamlessly, they go hand in hand together. 5 years you complete, you've done your bachelor's and your master's, and then you have the opportunity to even continue to a dissertation or to a doctoral studies if you wish to do so. So this is maybe the distinct thing that you will encounter when browsing Finnish higher education opportunities. I know that there's a lot of information, and I don't expect people to remember everything that I've said. But you can easily tap into studyinfinland.fi, which is where we work at, as the national body for Finnish higher education institution. Finnish higher education, and then you could go into Study Info, where you would have it's a government provided portal and a website gathering information about various application periods, national online application portal, and study program database. So a rather vast library of information is made available for you there. Through our website, studyinfinland.fi, you'll be able to also visit universities and web pages, and if at a later stage you might some point maybe look into the immigration policies residence permit information for migrit.fi. But this is briefly it. And maybe at this point, I will just hand over the mic to my dear colleague in Los Angeles, Sari Toikander. Please, I'll be probably changing the slides from my end, but please
Great.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Harri, and I assume that you can hear me well.
Perfect.
Yes. So, as mentioned, I'm working as a counselor for science and higher education at the Consulate General of Finland here in LA. I've been here for 2 years now, and one of my tasks is to promote student mobility between Finland and North America. We have another science counselor in Washington, D.C., and one also in Sao Paulo, who is then, of course, responsible for the actions in South America. I'm myself a scientist, so I have been doing research for over 20 years before this position. So I feel that when we talk about the higher education, it's also really important to mention something about the research and innovation activities that we have in Finland. And as it of course is one major thing that is impacting the quality of education. So in the Finnish higher education institutions, the lecturers are very often doing research themselves, and in this way they are of course able to bring something special for the teaching and course contents. And I think it's always very inspiring when you can learn from a real professional, and at least for myself, some of the greatest lecturers have really impacted also my career choices, as they just made some topic sound so interesting through their own research. And if we think about the research and innovation activities in Finland, those are very much focused on the universities and universities of applied sciences that Harri already mentioned. In addition, we do have some research in the governmental research institutes and also in some private research institutes. And additionally, there are also research activities ongoing in the university hospitals. And as you can see from this map, the research institutes in Finland are spread quite evenly throughout the country, of course, except for the very northern parts of Finland, Lapland. And so these locations correspond well with the locations of our higher education institutions. Maybe you can, Harri, go to the next slide then. So Finland is also investing a lot for research and innovation activities. And this is also consistently showing in the results, as Finland has been really ranked above the average in R&D excellence rankings that are based on the impact of our scientific publications. So last year, for example, Finland was spending almost 3% of its GDP on R&D, which is a little bit over of the average of OECD countries. The aim is, however, to increase R&D spending to 4% of the GDP by 2030. And of course, to reach these kind of goals, there will be huge investments. So about 280 million increase in the R&D expenses every year. So there are really some major ongoing efforts for investing in the research excellence in Finland. And this kind of high-level research is, of course, often linked to the innovation activities. And maybe you can, Harri, go to the next slide. So this bar graph that we have here is the European Innovation Scoreboard that is describing the innovation performance of the European countries from 2016 to 2022. And as you can see, Finland is one of the leading innovation countries among the EU member states. So basically, all of these top countries here, they have very attractive and productive research and innovation ecosystems, as well as high digitalization. And I just checked actually yesterday that the results for the 2024 Innovation Scoreboard and the top positions are still the same, Finland being in the third place. And maybe I should also mention that Finland is also one of the leading knowledge-based economies in the world. And now you can, Harri, go to the next slide. So I thought that I would also talk a little bit about the Finnish flagships. So in 2018, a so-called Finnish flagship program was launched, and it was launched to support the research and innovation activities in Finland. So this program, it basically supports collaborations between research, industry, and also the society. It is funded by our Research Council of Finland, which is our national funding organization, which in this case gives long-term funding for multi-organizational projects. That kind of projects that really have the potential to create some novel solutions with high impact. So, sorry, there is some alarm here. I hope you don't hear it. So these projects are selected by an international panel. So there is, of course, high competition, and the selected projects, they mostly mix several types of cutting-edge research. And one of the aims of these projects is also to support sustainable growth in the future and also develop new business opportunities in Finland. So this far, we have had 14 flagship programs funded. So you can see the list of these programs in here. So they are on various fields of science. So it can be anything from health to atmospheric sciences. And all of these flagships really represent well the Finnish research excellence. And I would say that these programs are also greatly impacting the education and training possibilities in Finland. And it's maybe good for you to also know that international collaborations are also in a very important role in these flagship programs. But of course, in addition to these flagship programs, we have also many other excellent research programs and projects in the Finnish higher education institutions that I just can't now discuss in the interest of time. But I think this was all I wanted to shortly mention about the research activities in Finland on a very general level. So now I will give it back to you, Harri. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer in the end of this webinar, or you can, of course, always send me email as well.
Thank you very much, Sari, for the great points you made. And indeed, Finland has a variety of things to offer, whether it's bachelor, master, or even top of the field research. But right now we have an alumni, and then we have Debra. Are you here? You can please turn on your microphone and camera and maybe deliver your presentation as well.
Hello, thank you, Harri. Just a second
Hey.
while I share my presentation.
I can see it just fine.
You can see it? Yes, can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you just
All
fine.
right, great. Thank you so much. So, hello everyone. Olá a todos e todas. Les saludo a ustedes. Salut à tous. I'm Deborah Oliveira, multilingual advisor for immigrants at International House Oulu and the City of Oulu, and also an alumni from the Education and Globalization Master's Program from the University of Oulu. And today, I would like to share with you how I navigated internship and job hunting in Finland. But before that, I would like to walk you through my journey to Finland. Sorry, I can't see if it's, yeah, now it's changing. So let me walk you through my journey to Finland. I'm from São Paulo, Brazil, and I live in Oulu, way up north. And you might wonder, well, why a woman like me came from Latin America and ended up in the Nordics. So I had three goals in mind. First of all, the very own dream of studying abroad. I also wanted to experience living in different countries, and I wanted to advance my career. But, oops, sorry. But my studying Finland timeline was not straightforward. So back in 2019, I sent my first master's applications to other countries, and Finland was not on the red at that time. And in 2020, as you might know, pandemic hit, and I had to reroute my study abroad plans. So I was applying for a scholarship. Due to funding cuts, I didn't get a scholarship. And then I had to do some research of other countries where I could do my master's degree. As my master was in education, then I found out about Finland and I applied to Finnish universities. And in 2021, I received an offer and then moved to Finland. 2023, I graduated from my master's degree. And 2024, now I'm working full time. Then you might ask, well, what were the reasons that made her choose Finland to study? First of all, like Harri mentioned, the education system is well known all over the world, and I was studying education. This was very important for me. Second, the location. Although we are way up north, Finland is in Europe, and traveling was something that was extremely important for me. I also needed a scholarship to fund my studies, and most of Finnish universities, they offer scholarships for students. Finland is known for a high cost of life, but compared to other European countries, Finland has quite an affordable student life because students here, they have many benefits. I could also work along my studies because of my permit. And after I graduated, I was able to apply for a up to 2-year permit to look for jobs. Finland then seemed like a good destination for me. And then that was when Oulu became home. Do you remember that I mentioned the 3 goals of studying abroad? The third one was to advance my career. So for me, my mindset from the moment that I decided to come to Finland was, how am I going to navigate for my master's studies to the working life. So I did that by working along the studies and also starting to build my career in Finland from the first year of my master's degree. This was how I landed 7 positions in Finland in 3 years. So first, I worked as a communications trainee at Oulu Talent Hub and Business Oulu. Then I worked as a student tutor, or kummi in Finnish means godmother or godfather for international students. Then I worked as a global education development trainee at University of Oulu and Uniped, which is a partnership of Finnish universities. I was also a volunteer coordinator of multicultural activities for immigrants at Red Cross Oulu, a Portuguese teacher as a mother tongue at the city of Oulu. I conducted a commission research for the Consulate of Finland in São Paulo and the Finnish National Agency for Education, and I'm currently a multilingual advisor for immigrants, still the city of Oulu. And then you might ask me, well, Deborah, it seems that it's quite easy to find jobs in Finland. Well, not always. The scenario can be quite challenging for international students, but I'm going to share with you what I did to enjoy my life beyond my studies and start building my career. So in Finland, there are university career centers or services at the universities. So make sure to visit them, and then you can get tips on how to build your CV, how to pitch for interviews, and some other career advice. There are plenty of events for job searching, especially for internationals. So I made sure to attend to most of them. I also researched companies, organizations, and institutions that I wanted to work with or intern with. Also learned Finnish, at least a little bit of Finnish. And then I networked as much as I could. Because in Finland, network is extremely important, not only for your work, but also for your studies. Something else that I did was to map my skills and area of expertise so I could apply for this internship and job opportunities. So I analyzed what were my previous studies, what kind of internship and work experiences I had, also volunteering activities I had engaged in my current studies in Finland at that moment, and also what were my future career goals. And then you might say, oh my gosh, Deborah, but you have only worked and studied. Well, not only that. While I was at the University of Oulu, I was able to make a huge network of very dear friends. Here in this picture in the middle, some of my mates from the Education and Globalization program. I also had to experience what was like to live in the Nordics. So deal with the darkness of winter. On this picture on the left, I was leaving university and it was around 3 or 4 p.m. It was quite dark. Also deal with the harsh Finnish winter. So in Oulu, this was not like the temperature that was the minus that I got. Like here, minus 28, but this year was pretty harsh and it was minus 35 here in Oulu. And I tried to have fun, like with half a year of Finnish winter, but I tried to learn to ice skate. Didn't go that well. And as Hari mentioned, in Finland, you can also enjoy the 4 seasons. They are beautiful in which way, in their own ways. And Finland has a lot of lakes and forests. So although coming from Brazil, I think I've learned to admire nature here in Finland. And now that I'm still here, I would like to touch on some reasons for staying in Finland. First of all, work-life balance. In Finland, there are work-friendly hours. So 3, 4 p.m., most of people are already out of the office. This is quite different from all the Americas, I would say. Safety. Finland is a safe country. And for me, moving abroad by myself as a woman, this was extremely important. The quality of life in Finland, everything's pretty chill. There are not many people, so you can have quite like a reasonable and nice life. Also in Finland, I was able to achieve my career goals. You might have heard about the welfare system, so it's very good to know that you live in a country where education and health are good and free. And also here, I'm able to continue my studies. So for instance, if I want to go for a PhD, I'm able to do that because I studied here, and PhD in Finland has no fees so far. Other reasons for staying in Finland, salmon soup. I love salmon soup. The seasons, as I have mentioned, pulla, which is a cinnamon bun. It's really good and you can find everywhere. Well, the perks of living so up north is that you get to see the northern lights, sauna, a great Finnish invention. In this picture, I was doing avanto. Avanto is when you go for ice dipping, and I think on this day it was minus 18 degrees. And you can also get to meet Santa Claus in Rovaniemi. So I think my main message for you is that Finland was not my first option, but it has turned out to be one of the greatest surprises of my life. This is me at the airport in São Paulo. You can see by the mask, it was still pandemic. And I have no regrets in making all the journey from São Paulo to Finland. Hoping to see you in Finland, and then you get to hear Tervetuloa Suomeen, or Welcome to Finland. And thank you, kiitos, obrigada, and gracias. And if you would like to reach out to me to ask more questions about studying Finland, please feel free to. I'm going to share this presentation later with you. Here's my LinkedIn profile, and I also have an Instagram to share a little bit about the life in Finland. It's in Portuguese and English. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Deborah. You're getting reactions from the crowd, so it must have been a banger, like an absolute killer presentation by the reactions of it. Thank you for reacting. Yeah, and Deborah will be made available also during the Q&A session. So maybe we'll get to connect with Deborah once more. But now it's time to maybe go into the next bit. So now we've heard about from a former student. Okay, so let's now reel in a current student. I'm hoping John is there.
Hello.
Hi. Just maybe open up your camera and.
Yep, I think I can be seen and heard now. Let me know.
Oh yeah, it's coming
Yes.
through. Cool.
Awesome.
All right, off you go.
Great, thank you. Let me just share my screen real quick. So let me know if you can see everything nice and clear. I hope so. I can't see myself anymore.
It comes through. It comes through.
Okay, great. All right. Well, it's hard to follow a presentation like that, but I'm gonna do my best to talk a bit about what it is like to actually be here studying at the moment through 5 loosely related anecdotes. So I guess for a bit of background, oh yeah, how did I end up here? Long story short, I am also what I would call a full-time immigrant, so I haven't stopped moving in a very long time. I'm originally Venezuelan. I moved to the UK roughly 14 years ago, and then I moved to Finland about 2 years ago. So I did my bachelor's in the UK, and then I decided that I wanted to do a master's. But this actually wasn't my first plan or idea. I was pretty much done with studying for quite a while. And as I was finishing up my studies, I came across some subjects that I thought it would be interesting to continue exploring. So when I started my own journey of looking for a degree abroad, it was very much like just bumping into the field of like masters for the first time and trying to figure out everything. So which can be a bit overwhelming. luckily for me, my first step was just to like look into what degrees offered what I wanted to study specifically, because it was quite a specific like issue that I wanted to pursue. And that's where the University of Tampere here in Finland came into play. So I wasn't specifically looking to move to Finland, let alone to anywhere in this part of the world. I was actually just kind of following something that would be in line with my studies. And one thing led to the other. I applied, I got into my master's, and here I am. So um, I am living proof that you can move to Finland without knowing much about the country, and that you can get yourself out there and slowly adapt to like a new scenario. I think from the places that I've moved to, it's definitely a place that has been more comfortable to move to in terms of the intensity and like the main differences that I experienced. My background is in design, and now I'm pursuing a social sciences master's focusing on digital art. So, oh, and that's a picture of me laying in the snow, which will probably happen to you if you come here. But it feels great, so don't worry. So, let's talk a bit more about living in a Finnish city. If you are a city person like myself, you are probably used to the hustle and bustle and just like intensity. You know, don't talk to anyone on the street, kind of stick to your guns and be careful all the time, which are good things, granted, to have, I think, if you are going to be living in a city. But to my surprise, I was really, really pleased with how relaxed city life seemed to be here. The good thing about Finland is that a lot of their cities are really mixed in with the nature, and they are not like massive metropolis. If you are used to living in an actual like larger city, things can be quieter and they can be slower, which I think is a great thing. Oh, it just went back the other way. This is what Tampere looks like in 6 pictures from my camera roll. Tampere is sitting in an isthmus between two very large lakes of fresh water. There is maybe over 200,000 people living here, so it's not really that big of a city. But where I was living in the UK was always also around the same amount, if not a bit larger. So despite having a large population, it's still manageable. I absolutely love that I can rely on my bike to go anywhere here, as long as there are conditions to ride a bike, which is basically April to October. The bike season is about to end, which I am very sad about. But public transport is great. You can really rely on anything from the tram, the metro, the trains, the buses to come and pick you up from most places. If you are in a city, they will leave you everywhere, which is super useful because when it's like quite cold, you don't want to be walking around outside. So definitely the bus comes in handy in that case, and it's kept really clean and on time. So those are pluses if you're coming from a larger city. You might not be expecting those things. The city has a really interesting mix of like old and new architecture. It's quite an industrial city historically speaking. So you have loads of culture and history in terms of architecture to look at, which I am a fan of. So I love living in it. If you're like looking for a city that has that like old feel to it, then you can find some of those buildings here. And there are plenty of cities in Finland that have that history to them, that you're talking like 200 years old or around that time. Um, as opposed to some of the other places in Finland, Tampere is actually quite hilly in some places, which is not normal in Finland per se. Like it's very flat, so it's nice to be able to go up hills and see the sunsets and the horizon. If you're coming from a hilly place, then you will appreciate that. Um, but enough about the city. Let's talk a bit more about living here in other examples. So, this is a screenshot from my conversations with my friends. Despite my toes being frozen most of the time while I'm out here during winter, this has not stopped me at all from enjoying the outdoors. There seriously is so much to do, and I wouldn't have considered myself an outdoorsy type before moving here, but I feel like that's something that has come out of me since I lived here, and because there's so much access to just being outside and being comfortable, that has really made a difference for me. So let's start with autumn, which is happening right now. It's not the longest season, but during autumn, basically as a student, like what I would be doing every week is trying to hit some campfire spot with my friends on the weekend, getting together to just enjoy the colors and some of the pickings of the season. So there's mushroom picking and there's blueberry picking as well, which people do here quite a lot. I think you can really see how in tune with like enjoying nature peacefully, like as a culture, it is a thing here. So it's something that I really appreciated as well. To go out there and to actually just like be in peace and quiet with your surroundings. And it's not warm anymore, so you can actually start wearing your sweaters again, which is a huge plus. If you're into secondhand shopping, you will find lots of cool things here to buy secondhand, which is also sustainable, and we love that. Winter is long, but that is not a problem because there are so many things that you can do in the snow, which I am a huge fan of. I grew up somewhere that has no snow, so for me, it still has like a very large amount of novelty to it. Um, I love going out to ice skate, to sled, to just like walk out on the lakes. That picture that you see at the bottom is actually a cafe that they open on top of a frozen lake during the winter, which is super cool. You can walk out there and just like get a coffee, which is great. I tried cross country skiing for the first time and I sucked at it, but you probably will. So everyone goes through that. Still would recommend to experience that as well. And as I mentioned before, Avanto and the sauna, it just hits different during the winter. Being able to go from extremely hot to freezing cold, it does something to your body that is so, so relaxing. So I cannot recommend that strong enough. And finally, we have summer. I'm kind of skipping spring because it's a bit unreliable sometimes, and it kind of just like merges into summer. But summer coming around after being in the cold for so long, it feels like such a breath of fresh air. And you experience all of this like midnight sun, like midsummer experience. Like seriously, that it doesn't get dark at all during the summer. So that's something that is insane to experience, and it can be so awesome to be able to just like walk outside and be in nature 24/7 if you want, and just really experience all of that warmth and greenery that has come out like after so much darkness and snow. So you really get like these complete opposites that I have gotten to appreciate, and I was not expecting at all having like 30 plus degree like Celsius temperatures during the summer here, especially if you're living inland. You can sometimes have like proper summer temperatures like this year, and again it's sunny all the time. So yeah, it's just I love spending time outdoors here, and that's something that has really come out after moving here. So if you're looking to enjoy nature, I think you won't have too much trouble in doing that. So here, what if you get bored? That was a good question. I don't think you will, because if you're not doing something outside during the winter, this is like the perfect place to develop your best skills at fighting the cabin fever. There are so many activities and like traditions that just focus around being cozy and being warm indoors. And there's like warm drinks and food and all of these things that you can do inside. But while the weather is good, you'll be surprised to find that Finns have their own type of baseball, which is super interesting to watch. And the story is quite literally that a Finn went to the US, saw baseball, and thought, I could do it better. So if you like baseball, check out Finnish baseball. Um, there are markets, and there is so much culture to see. Like there are so many different cities that you can travel to. And if you're part of like a student association, for example, then you can do these trips for an affordable price as well. I am a big fan of the arts, as I mentioned before. So for me, my biggest recommendation would be the museums. There are so many of them in Finland, and you can get a museum card that gets you into all of them for a year for a very, very affordable price. So again, if you have nothing to do, you can just go to the museum and spend your time there. It's great. I love that. um, Now, when it comes to studying, I've talked so much about not studying that I feel like I have to just cover my bases here. Um, it's the student system here is very different from what you might be used to. It requires you to be responsible and proactive about your own studies. So if you are expecting or are used to a lot more hand-holding, then just keep in mind that you will have to fare for yourself a bit. This doesn't mean that you will be forgotten. It's the complete opposite. It's actually that you are given the space to ask those questions and seek out help when you need it. And the help is there and it is available, but you have to start the first step. So aside from that, I would say that the amenities that I have found here have been pretty much state of the art, just like really, really nice and new. I have had access to pretty much anything that I have needed, from libraries to gyms to like gym classes that are included in your like student fee as well. And not to mention the libraries. If you are coming from a country that isn't really big on libraries, like this is a source of like knowledge and just so many things that you can have access to that you should really just take advantage of that. Um, I love the idea that you can go to a library here and actually like work on projects that are not book related, but that you will have the spaces there to access like tools and machinery and technology that you maybe don't have access to at home. Um, Apart from all of that, I would say that making friends in Finland is a really interesting experience. You will find so many other international students that have come here, in doing the same thing that you could be doing. So there's a large opportunity to bond with them in that environment. But then as well, then you have the entire world of Finns to get acquainted to. They can be very particular sometimes, but so is every culture. So I think, the culture shock will be there regardless. But as I said before, people here can be very gentle and very relaxed. So if you're looking for these like more of like quiet bond type of relationship with your friends, you can find that here as well. Um, I think that is all that I want to cover for now. Um, as my last, remaining thoughts, I would say I would just really encourage you to like consider studying abroad if you want to, and that despite Finland being a sort of like a surprise adventure for me, I have not regretted it, and if anything, take it from someone that was, basically just did not know anything about wanting to study in Finland or didn't come here with the express intention of like staying here. And I'm here like a year longer than I should have already. So I can say that I've really enjoyed being here. But that is all from me. So I will let it go back to Harry now and we can continue with
Thank
the
you,
rest of the
John.
webinar.
Thank you, John, for your inspirational slides and pictures, and that was some true insight. Even me, as a born and bred Finn, obviously, I enjoy watching this. Cool. We still have one bit to go, and then we'll go to Q&A. Sorry, Katri, we are already a bit tight on time, but I know I can count on you to maybe just squeeze your presentation maybe slightly so that we have question for time for Q&A as well. But please,
Yeah.
Katri, go ahead.
I will try. Thank you so much. Just a sec. Sorry, I had some problems with the sharing. I just have to.
I will also make a note while Katri is setting up that the Q&A
Yes.
is now being made available. So you are now able to type in questions, but let's have Katri's presentation.
Sorry about that. I think I had closed it by accident. But hey, good to see you everybody here. My name is Katri, and I work in the Work in Finland unit at Business Finland. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about working in Finland after your studies, and we would very much like everybody who comes and studies in Finland to also stay in Finland for work. So why should you stay? We think our biggest asset in probably also in studying and in life in general, but also working life is the work-life balance. We have a culture that our companies know that a well-rested employee is a better asset for the company than maybe a very tired one. So we have working days, usually about 8 hours a day. And also we have a long holiday, especially in the summer. People usually just take time off for like 4 weeks solid, like the entire July, and also some bits in the winter in addition to that. So I myself have like 6 weeks per year, and I love it. Also, in the working life, it's unique that we have a really vibrant startup scene. So our tech sector is full of these really innovative startups, and we have this slush coming up actually next month, which is the Europe's biggest startup conference. And also, which creates innovations, is our very flat hierarchy at work. So it's really easy to tell your ideas and, just throw your ideas to your boss, and good or bad, and it's okay. And it's really low barrier to approach your supervisors. And often people just call everybody by their first name, and even the CEO, etc. And also we have this ranking here as well, that we have in Europe the best in developing professional skills at work in Finland. So our top industries we're very, very tech country, as I already mentioned. We're big in ICT, clean tech, and also marine technology. There's big shipbuilding places in Finland as well. And then I go to the industries. So as I already mentioned, tech talent is big, and the numbers are actually quite big when you think about that we are only 5.5 million people in Finland. So there's this is definitely biggest need in the tech industry. And of course, it's not like tech industry, it's a cross-cutting technology experts that we need a lot, and we have a lot of opportunities to offer. Another big thing for us is health and life sciences. So we have all this really, also in the health tech, we have really nice startups, for example, and also bigger companies. And also there's been investments that, for example, big pharma companies have their R&D centers in Finland, a couple of them. And here's just another sector that we have here that we're placing emphasis on is the battery value chain and green hydrogen and green transformation. And there's just it's a messy slide, but there's just some companies that operate in this and related fields. And I mentioned the maritime, and that's something that there's a need in, like shipbuilders, engineers, and everything around it, as it's always a big project that lasts for many years, and there's a lot of different parties involved in the shipbuilding process and designing, etc. And then one of my favorite industries is gaming. I don't know if you know Angry Birds and Supercell. So they both originate from Finland, and also several smaller gaming companies. And that's a really nice international industry that they have probably more international people working there than Finnish people. And it's a very sort of a cool industry, and they don't really care where you come from, and English is the language they speak at work commonly. Okay, and then when you've finished your studies and you are thinking about looking for work, this is our site, workinfinland.com. It's open jobs there that do not require Finnish language. So everything that's there is only English required. But it's also a one-stop shop that you can find a lot of links, a lot of information about living, and just basic general information on that page. So that's probably something you want to look into. And also, if you have a good idea with your friends, or you want to start a startup with your university buddies, maybe that's one path for you. as I mentioned, we have really nice startup ecosystem, and it's really a nice like startup family. They work together nicely. So this is also one option if you want to start to become an entrepreneur. That's also possible in Finland. And you might also want to work while you're studying. So this is, you can work 30 hours per week during your studies. And you also have, in Finland, as you have work-life balance, you have study-life balance. So you have time to do some work as well if you wish. And it's 30 hours per week average. So during holidays, you can then work more. And then when you want to concentrate on your studies more, you can work less, but the average has to be 30. And then there's some exceptions. If your degree requires completing internships or diploma work, the working time restrictions do not apply, as you will get credits for that, and that's part of your study. So that's exception for this. And then we have all these LinkedIn channels and some videos and YouTube channels if you want to look talent experiences and stories from Finland. You might want to bookmark those, or I don't know, Harri is probably sharing these, so you can go back to those later. And that's it. I tried to squeeze in. Hopefully I didn't take too much time, Harri.
No, not at all. Not at all. Besides, everything that you said had to be said. It's also, thank you for delivering. Very, very valid points. We've come to the end of our presentation, and since we now have a great group of panelists here, Katri from Business Finland, we have Deborah as an established alumni in Oulu, as well as John as a current student, as well as Sari as the Team Finland knowledge expert in Los Angeles. I might throw in a couple of questions. Thank you for typing in questions in the Q&A. Starting off, maybe this could go to John, and if then Deborah needs to wants to maybe add some points, let's see. But the question is, how much is Finnish needed on a day-to-day basis? Should I start studying it before going to Finland, or is English enough for the initial adaptation period? Maybe
Great
John could go
question.
first.
Yes. At university, you will, if you're in an English-speaking degree, you can get through your degree in English, and you will receive maybe 2 like Finnish lessons that you have to complete. When it comes to life outside of school, then you have more chances of having interactions with non-Finnish speakers, but I feel like it really depends on the age range of who you're interacting with and how far away from like a larger city you are. I've gotten by with the Google Translate like conversation feature. It works really well. And there's also the camera translation that lets you translate things you're looking at. So with those things, you can bear through, but of course it helps to know some words, especially just like basic vocabulary, so you can start like recognizing things. But yeah, you can totally work with just English.
Good. What about you, Deborah? How would you tip anyone coming to Finland? What is the
I
level of
think
Finnish
you
needed?
I think you can manage with English most of the time. Like in Finland, most people speak very good English, although things are pretty humble and they might tell you, oh, I'm sorry, just speak a little bit of English. But yeah, I have managed like from everything, going to hospitals and buying things at a store in English, and it was perfectly fine. Of course, it helps to know the basics. Terve, kiitos, moikka. But yeah.
Good. This is good to know, and obviously, thank you for your insights. I would have, what I usually say to international people and students, well, yeah, well, you don't necessarily have to know Finnish, but if I suppose I was going to Brazil and to study, I'd be tempted to study Portuguese just to survive and also improve my chances in the working life, even though people would probably in Brazil then still be speaking English.
and that might be my primary means of communication. We have also a question about scholarships. It's a question that usually is heard. And then there are short-term related or short-term exchange related questions. If I just maybe take the two questions myself, and obviously if someone needs to feels the need to maybe add on, then they'll feel free to add in whatever extent you feel like. But the scholarships, Finland, the Finnish universities, they have a scholarship system, but it's just that it's not a national system. So basically, each university has a system of their own, and there's 35 institutions that you would then be browsing. And they might be program specific, they might be field specific, or they might be only, well, or then they might be applied to the whole university as such. But unfortunately, like in an ideal situation, we would have a bilateral like scholarship that if you come from a certain country, or if you come from Latin America or from Northern America, you would have a said targeted scholarship. But unfortunately, such scholarships do not exist. However, this will be testing your maybe your persistence in finding the scholarship opportunity for you. And then obviously you would have third-party scholarships that made available that we don't even know about. The prices in general, or the tuition fees in general, they vary from some thousands of euros to per academic year to maybe a maximum of 15,000 euros. I believe is the highest that I know of per academic year. So even if I know that it's a lot of money, but then again, if you compare it to some of the other options that you would have in Australia or Canada or US or even the UK, we like to think that we are not really, that we like to bring the value to the investment, and we don't strain the education with too high of tuition fees. But then we leave the question obviously to each student to ponder whether that's good or not. And yeah, for short-term exchanges, Study in Finland is not actively promoting student exchanges. Not to say that we wouldn't be happy to receive exchange students to Finland. Of course we are, and we know that for instance, many Latin American citizens, they are keen to look into short-term exchanges, summer schools maybe, or but that's something that we have less information about. And if it's an exchange program, then obviously the protocol will be that you go into the international office of your current university to talk to the international staff, like, hey, do we have any places available in Finland? And then the answer probably is that no, we don't. And then you try to fix yourself a place as what you would call a free mover, but then it would require you to manually contact universities saying that, hey, could I come in for one semester? They might say yes, and then they might say, yeah, you can come, but you will just have to pay for the semester, and then the fee for that would be so and so many euro. But that's the normal protocol. And I've understood that for instance, in many Latin American countries, you would have organizations that do much of the heavy lifting for you. So you would kind of enlist into an agency, and they would do the work for you. But unfortunately, I have no further information about student exchanges, as we are not here to promote student exchange as such, even though the idea in itself is very valuable. I'm wondering if they have any. Yeah, there's a question about master degrees and 2+2 programs. U.S. community colleges for 2+2 programs. I don't know of any, but that doesn't mean that there wouldn't be one. It's just that, unfortunately, those kind of, yeah, I wish we had a database where we would be able to list. Study info probably would be the best place to look into those. those institutional agreements, 2+2s or 1+1s, or maybe you do an associate degree in the US and then you top up in Finland. You could find information about that in Study Info. Study Info, again, let me just reiterate, would have the information about every possible study opportunity in higher education in English made available in a Finnish higher education institution. Yes. Do we have any further questions? I'm skimming through. We are already 1 minute past our time, but I'm just looking if we have anything that.
I wanted to add an answer without a question, just
Yes.
very quickly. If you are interested in continuing to know stuff about studying in Finland, we have 2 Instagram accounts that I would encourage you to follow. There is Study in Finland and sif.ambassadors. We post a lot of content about the daily life stuff and all of these resources that we share. So it's a good place to go for information as well.
Yeah. There's also a question, does tuition fee have to be paid every year or every semester? This is, again, a policy that is dependent on the higher education institution. I guess the norm would be to pay per year, but there are also institutions that collect payments per every semester. There are, yeah, maybe I'll just conclude by sharing the last slides of what I have as the is it coming through?
Now, yes.
Now it is. Yeah, sorry I took you to the beginning, but I will not be taking you all the way through. Let me just show you the last one, because John made a great point about the channels that you are able to find us from. So Study in Finland obviously would be probably the place to be, to start from. That's a great starting point. Also, don't forget to follow the SIF ambassadors on Instagram. You can, if you like John's story as much as I did, you'll be following him and the SIF ambassadors on Study in Finland ambassadors on Instagram. And obviously we have Facebook as well, LinkedIn. They're all accessible through the Study in Finland website. We will be shortly sending you a survey link, and we hope that you just spend a brief moment just to answer. There's going to be 4 very easy questions. You don't have to type in anything, just click, 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 click. And we hope that with the basis of those questions, we're able to target you and better in the future. And we have a webinar coming up. If you got fired up about applications, we have a webinar coming up in December, and then we hope to provide you further information about application in a more detailed manner. Right now, you're safe and sound. You haven't missed any deadlines or anything as such. The application periods, they will activate in December. And by the time they start, we will be delivering another application webinar. We hope to see you there. In the meanwhile, it's already past 10 p.m. in Finland, so it's pretty much time for us to go to bed. But for you, the day is already starting, only getting started. So enjoy the rest of the day, and we'll just go to sleep. All right? Cool. Peace and out, and take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
bye.